I mentioned at the outset that you've been in role for roughly 8.5 years now, and I wonder what advantages you find in the continuity of that leadership. There's some organizations you're more than double the average tenure of a CIO, and in many cases, a company might have a CIO for 2 years and then bring in somebody else, and maybe that person might last 2 or 3 years. And naturally, with each change of leader, even when somebody's succeeding somebody who was deemed successful, the new leader is going to be putting their fingerprints in some ways on the operation, making change, et cetera. Yours is a story, as I say, of continuity. You've seen waves of technology. You've probably introduced technologies at the beginning of your tenure that you're now, sunsetting because they're no longer effective or no longer, modern enough for the future practices of Owens Corning. Talk a bit about that perspective, if you would, as it is an unusually long tenure.
I think continuity is important, right? You described, Peter, the new person coming in and putting their fingerprints on it. And, one of the real dangers of that, and I can remember, although it's been a while now, almost 9 years ago now, you do have to be careful when you start to put your fingerprints on it as a new entrant, because you got to remember those fingerprints that were there were put by all the people that are on your team today. And, your ability to describe the change you're about ready to create as just something different, not making what was here wrong, is just really, really, really important. So obviously continuity, eliminates that danger. I think continuity also helps you with retaining a lot of your top talent. I mean, I would equate it a little bit to, professional sports or very large collegiate sports. When you're recruiting talent, the first thing they always want to know is how much time is left on the coach's contract that I'm about ready to go join. And, the thinking is, I don't want to go join somebody for 4 years and they're only there for 2, and then I don't know what I'm getting myself into. So, I do think continuity helps your most talented people find comfort that if they feel good about what you've built, that doesn't have to be a worry for them during their at least immediate tenure. So I think that's really careful. The downside of the continuity is you got to make sure that you have a good conduit to external perspective, right? Because you can become, I think, very insular that way. And that's where, honestly, probably in the last half of my tenure, I've spent more time being sure that the ecosystem of colleagues and contacts and insight we're getting from the outside is very, very strong. Because if not, we could be insular to the point where we're not innovating. We're the best IT organization Owens Corning has, but we're one of the poorest IT organizations in the world, and we never want to be in that situation. So I think it has its pluses and minuses, like everything else. And like most things, if you know what those are, your ability to navigate them is usually pretty good. It's when you're blind to what some of those things are, I think, is where you see the most danger.